Well, welcome to another episode of SKST Radio. We're in Real Talk, and today we're doing Authoress Network. And we have our own Dr. Ngozi here. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. And then we have co host Mr. Authoress here. And we're just going to have a girls' day and talk about her new book. What is it called? The Land of the Rising Sun. And we're just going to have fun with it, okay? So tell us who you are and what you're about, Lady Bud.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Ngozi Marianne Obi, but a lot of people can't say my name, so they call me Z. So, and of course, my name is of African origin, of Nigerian Igbo descent, because both my parents were from Nigeria before they came to this country. I'm a pharmacist by trade, because growing up in an African home, I couldn't necessarily aspire to be an author or a journalist or something like that, because if you're not a doctor, lawyer, maybe a nurse, maybe a teacher, they'll pray for you, and they assume that you're not going to be able to feed yourself, you know. And once you leave, you can come back for a little while, but you got to go out and make sure you can take care of yourself. So I went on to find myself in the medical field as a pharmacist, but I never lost my love for books. And when my mother got sick, I actually started writing. And I remember, my sister reading it, and she's like, "You really need to get this published." And then I was like, "Yeah, nah, I'm not going to do that. This is just for me to kind of help deal with my mother's illness, an escape for me." But we published that and actually republished it in 2009. That's my very first book, Love's Destiny. I actually have 4 works of fiction. 3 of them are novels. Love's Destiny, Love's Legacy, which is a sequel, When Dreams and Visions Collide, which I call my just a fun book. If you just want an escape, if you want to get away. And then Land of the Rising Sun, which we'll be discussing in detail today, but that's actually done in 3 parts. I've also co-authored an anthology with 30 other women, talking the Women of Purpose anthology, talking about how everyone is fulfilling their purpose, the challenges that they had to go through to fulfill those purposes. Just to encourage people to make sure they go out there and fulfill purpose, because living, this is it. And it has a workbook to kind of help people, write down, what they think their purpose is and how to work through it. A lot of times, we just go through life. We just go through life just to be going through life, but there's so much more to that. We were put on earth for a purpose, and it's up to us to ensure that we fulfill that purpose, even if there are challenges. So that's why that book was kind of written. And then I have written 2 children's books.
Nice.
And the reason I wrote this, I was at a book fair in Richmond. And these little kids kept coming up to the table, and the look of disappointment on their faces, nothing for me, no, So I said, well, you know what? Maybe that's a sign that that I need to do something. And of course, if I had to do it, then it had to be educational. So the first one, we did Timmy's Time Tale, and that's Timmy learning how to tell time on the analog clock from grandma while waiting for Sunday dinner. And then the other one, Shades of Me, it's about inclusivity, because I just believe that, representation matters.
Yes.
And especially as kids, they need to see themselves in books, it builds self-esteem.
Yes, absolutely.
But also other kids need to see other colors in books as well, because it helps promote tolerability.
Yes.
So that was why I did Shades of Me.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
So that's a little bit about me.
Well, this is gorgeous. I mean, beautiful illustration. Oh my gosh. And there she is on the back. Yay!
That's me.
Wow.
Well, you can hang on to it.
Okay, so tell us about this one.
So, Land of the Rising Sun is actually about a war that happened in Nigeria in the late 60s, like 67 to be exact, to 1970, before my parents came to this country. You know, and a lot of people have heard of Nigeria, but you've never really heard Biafra, which is what, when they decided to secede from Nigeria, they took on the name of Biafra because that's what it was called. That's what that area was called before they were amalgamated into Nigeria. It's called the Bight of Biafra. And to tell you a little bit of history, and well, let's start here. We had to do the book in three parts.
Okay.
So it's three parts in one book. The first part is a history lesson on how Nigeria became a nation and the problems that plagued it to cause the Nigerian Biafran War. The middle portion is a tale of war, I call it, but it's a fictional tale of the actual indigent experience. So what the indigents went through during the war, all the stories my parents told me at the dinner table, and I was fascinated by, I put together. But then I wrote a backstory to kind of connect it, so you don't really know what's fiction and what's real and what's not. And then for me, growing up hearing all these stories, what really tugged at my heart, and I'll show you pictures of them, were the Biafran Kwashiorkor children, who became the unlikely faces of the war. Because one of the policies of Nigeria was to actually starve
Wow.
the indigents to death, you
Oh my
know,
gosh.
while adults can handle hunger, kids really can't. So, you know, you see them, with the
with the
extended
pot
bellies and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And actually, Time magazine has an extensive picture story of them. So this is not just hidden somewhere. But you know, the schools that you see, they actually had to use schools as houses for these kids because nobody would help. Out of the entire world, only three countries helped Biafra. So think about what Ukraine is going through right now. But at least Ukraine has the world support. Biafra didn't. Only Israel, France, and Haiti. As a matter of fact, when the Red Cross were initially trying to come in to get aid from the U.S., there was, I think Lyndon Johnson was the president at that time, and they were showing him photos of the kid or videos of the kids on his TV. And you know what he said? He said, "Get those nigger children off my television."
Wow.
That's how callous, and you understand why, some people are mad at the British, to kind of give you a little history. Nigeria became a nation through exploration of the British into Africa, into Western Africa. And when they discovered that river that was there, even though it had been there, the whole time, they decided, they were going to call it the Niger River. But in essence, what they were saying was the Nigger River.
Yeah.
And when they decided then to put all those people along the Niger River together to call it Nigeria, it's actually Nigger area, Nigeria. That's where the name comes from. So when you lump over 330 tribes and sub tribes into one country, who's going to rule who? You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a different culture. Some of them serve, ancestors. Some of them are Christians. Some are Muslims. Those that serve ancestors, they have different gods. Oh, they call them different things. So who's going to rule who? And they each have their own resources, right? So it became like a squabble. They don't want to answer to this. We're our own kings. If you've heard of like the Benin Empire, not Dahomey, the woman king. I'll get to that in a little bit, but the Benin Empire there, they were their own empire long before the British came in. They were warriors, fighters, whatever, had artifacts and everything. So when you bring them in, well, hey, we are our own people. Who's going to rule who? So there was a squabble of who's going to control what. And I'll say, unfortunately, rather than fortunately, for the Igbo people or those in Biafra, southeastern Nigeria, they discovered oil there. So it was the oil boom of the 60s. Nigeria was about to become this very rich country, even though they had gained their independence, even though those in the southeast didn't necessarily rely on the oil. What that area was actually known for, they were coal miners. They used to call their supposed capital Enugu coal city, and the world would come there and mine coal, will teach them how to use coal. So when they discovered oil, it became okay, well, that goes to the federal government. So the guy that was the governor of the southern region said, look, and that's the one thing that Nigeria is blessed with. Every state has its own resources. You go to a place like Kogi State, which is northwest kind of, they have marble growing out of the ground that they don't know what to do with.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You walk across, there's marble, and it's just there, but they're importing marble from Italy to build their homes instead of honing their own marble.
Right there.
Exactly. And this is, part of the issue. So, the guy that was the governor said, look, let each region manage its own resources, right? And then let's have a weak central government, right? To kind of, do the administrative work. They agreed to it. They even had a meeting in Aburi, Ghana, to kind of say this is what we're going to do. But when they came back, the then head of state, go on, the British were like, if you let these people do this, they're going to overpower you. The rest of the country is going to be poor, and it's going to lead to the collapse of the nation. So because of that, he decided that no, we're not going to do this. We want to manage resources. Rise up. Mind you, they have gold in the north, right? That the country is not managing. Those regions are managing theirs, but you want to control the oil of the southeast. So based on that, the guy's name is Ojukwu. He was the governor. And he said, no, on the brewery we stand. Because he didn't want war. He didn't want to secede necessarily. He just wanted his people to be able to benefit. Yeah. And because of that, he said, no, on the brewery we stand. And if the war is going to come, let it come to us. So that's how the war ensued. And the entire world supported Nigeria to defeat these people. And initially, Biafra was winning because they were manufacturing their own weapons. They were really creative in doing, different things, heading off the Nigerian soldiers. But then they blocked up all the ports, so that they couldn't bring them food. Like Israel, that wanted to support them, couldn't bring food. They couldn't bring weapons in. So, and what they were manufacturing from was, they caught like the Nigerian soldiers and they kill them and they'll take their tanks, and manufacture things like that. As a matter of fact, my boyfriend was just telling me a story because his father and his uncle fought in the war. And he was saying there's a bridge called the Niger Bridge, that connects, if you would, Delta State, Lagos, to the southeast, right? And he said when the Nigerian soldiers were coming to attack, because that's the only way they could get in there, the Biafrans bombed that bridge. And when they bombed that bridge so that they couldn't come in, they got on boats and were coming, right? So they were bombing the boats. The Nigerians didn't expect it because they're like, they don't have weapons, but they were manufacturing their own.
Yeah.
And like he was saying, it wasn't until, because once you bomb the boats, they go down, right? About 4 days later, the corpses start to rise. And that's when they started to notice that there were white people among the Nigerian soldiers. You don't have white people in Nigeria, but clearly Russia and Britain,
That's a part of that.
yeah. We're giving them soldiers to help fight.
Wow.
So it was a brutal war. Like I said, both my parents were in the war. My father was a Biafran army captain. My mother was a nurse. And she said the things that they saw, terrible isn't a word. There's just no word to describe it. They were committing all kinds of atrocities, killing pregnant women, cutting their bellies open, pulling the baby out, living them to die on the street, raping women and girls, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds. There's actually a story in the book because we had to go back. After we did the audiobook, we went back and we revised the book and added a new story. And This is actually a true story. It was one that my father told me. He said they were riding through, because he was an army captain. They were riding through when he had a soldier with him, and they spotted a Nigerian soldier raping a young girl. And my father said he was so incensed. He told the soldier, he said, "Kill him or I'll kill you." You know, and the guy was fumbling, trying to, because he was like, "Hey, wait a minute." But my dad said he shot the Nigerian soldier, but the bullet pierced through him and killed the girl as well.
Oh.
So the parents came, and the parents were grateful to him, if you can imagine, to that, because they didn't.
The daughter didn't have to suffer.
Yeah, and they couldn't imagine how she could have lived with that, with the memory of that. So this is the level of atrocities that they were committing. There's another small town called Asaba. My mom is actually from Delta Igbo, which is on the other side of that Niger Bridge. And but they're considered Igbo speaking people. And the Nigerian soldiers got to Asaba and said all the men of the town should gather and dance for them, that they came in peace. So all of them gathered. The only ones that didn't come out were the ones that were maybe at their farms, or they were fighting in the war. They weren't there. And after they finished dancing, they gave them shovels and told them to start digging. They didn't realize they were digging their own graves.
Oh my God.
Yeah. At the end of it, they shot all of them and pushed them into the grave. Into the grave, I'm sorry. The only person that survived is the present king of Asaba Kingdom. He was the only surviving individual, surviving male out of that attack. And they said he was like, what, 4 at the time? So a lot happened. A lot of people don't know a lot about it. And you understand people's frustration. You understand, like I was telling you guys earlier about the Igbo professor, Carnegie Mellon. Her name is Dr. Uju Aina. And she made a statement on Twitter that she wished the Queen an excruciating thing.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And for me, I didn't necessarily agree with that. Now, as far as whether the British committed atrocities all over the world, they did, from India to Africa to even here in the U.S.
I mean, slavery, I mean, over, we've been through that, it's done,
Exactly. But my only thing is that majority of these people that were enslaved, under Britain, the colonies that were enslaved, because that's what I call it, when you come over and you take over somebody's resources, you're basically enslaving them. She gave their independence during her reign, to include Barbados just recently. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think she was that wicked-hearted to where, she wanted to continue the oppression of her, ancestors or whatever. So I don't put that on her, and that's just it.
Yeah.
But the history of it always makes
and she can't change the history. She can't change what her forefathers did.
Exactly.
She can only do what she can during her reign.
Exactly.
So
and everybody that wanted to be independent, they went in peace. They didn't have to fight to get their independence. She approved their independence. Let them go, let them be on their own. So what does that tell you? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just me. And, and I wrote on my Facebook page, I'm like, if you're that mad about it, and we should be mad about it, start a revolution. Start a revolution. The reason she's here, able to be here in this country, was because somebody started a revolution in the 1960s and said, no, we want total freedom, we want total equality. And because of that revolution, you can be here, be a professor, and say the things that you want.
Exactly.
So start a revolution. Nigeria got its independence from Britain in 1960, but yet the country's still in shambles today. In terms of leadership, in terms of security. As far as whether they have money, some of them got more money than you and I will ever see in our lifetime. They're driving Bentleys over there. You know what I'm saying? You go to some places, you wonder, am I still in Africa? Because that's the level of success, but it's not everywhere, and that's the problem.
There's a small portion of the
exactly.
benefit from all that.
The rich are extremely rich, and the poor are still poor. And the people that are in government leaving the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking all the money. I mean, talking about some, well, even in this presidential election is getting ready to come up. Oh, it's my turn. The audacity. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who gave you the right to believe that it's your turn to be the president of, Nigeria just because, you feel you can?
Yeah.
And all the money that, this true story. They did a story in the UK, no, in Europe, that if they took all the Nigerian money that was stored in the banks there, the economy would collapse. Because these people are stealing from the country, taking it out of the country, and put it in those banks. And those countries probably will never say anything about it because they know that they're helping fuel their economy. That's sad. But most of the people are suffering. Most of the people are suffering. It's a sad state of affairs. I know I've said a lot.
Can you imagine? No, this is amazing.
I'm
just thinking, can you even imagine?
Yeah. No, I'm listening to you talk, and it's crazy how, like, now what they say, in the school system and what they don't want to teach and all this other kind of stuff. It's really sad, and it actually I mean, I'm older now, and nobody's business how old I am, but I'm older. It just I have a little 4-month-old grandbaby, and I'm thinking about like all the stuff that I didn't know, and how uninterested I was in history in school. Like my thing was math and all that kind of stuff, a little bit of science things, but not, and all of it maybe correlates, but the history part was not really. It was just what social studies. It was not very interesting. Yeah, so like I'm just listening to you talking, and the other day, because my parents are from Nicaragua, so I started looking into the history, because as you get older too, you start thinking about my parents are not here anymore. How did I honor them and my history and that kind of thing. So I even started looking into background of the country, and when you talk about like colonization and what that really means, and separation and independence, and they are celebrating our independence yesterday of Nicaragua, how that really meant. There was some stuff with Spain and Mexico and all that. So you're learning all this kind of stuff about the history and everything that everybody going through, and you talk about how the president, everybody else, they're the rich ones, and then you got the people that are still suffering. So it's really amazing just to kind of to hear all the stuff that we don't know. You see how the name Nigeria came about.
That was amazing.
I mean,
now every time you say that, now I'm thinking, I'm going to think that, because that's it. I mean, oh my God.
So when you have somebody who speaks out like that, like the young lady did on Twitter, there's a reason to be angry about stuff. Maybe not to wish anybody anything like that, but at the same time, I mean, if you know, and especially if you've been through it, and you have parents that have gone through that, like that's just
But look at how she's handling it. Her family actually experienced it, and she's not doing what this other young lady did.
She's made a statement. I mean, everybody's free to say. They can say she made a statement. It's just a statement based on her own experience and her. It doesn't make it right to wish somebody to painful death. I don't say that by any means. But there's I think it's just we just need to learn a lot more about
history. Exactly.
So just this one book, it has so much information that
So guys, Land of the Rising Sun. Tell people how they can get that book.
Well, you can actually get it several ways on Amazon.com, on Barnes and Noble. Basically, everywhere books are sold online, you can get it, and then you can go to the brick and mortar stores and give them the ISBN number, and they can order it for you. It's also available on audiobook, Audible. So if you go to Amazon.com, the link to the Audible will be there as well. And my website, ladyofdestiny.com, actually has all those links.
Nice.
So if it's easier, you can just go to ladyofdestiny.com store and click on the Amazon link, the Barnes and Noble link, iBooks, Amazon Books, all of that. Will be on there. Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing. Yeah. This is amazing to learn this history.
I can just listen to her.
I know, right?
It's like you could do a reading session somewhere.
Audio book.
Yeah, it's an audio book, because there's actually pidgin English, or what you call patois, the Creole patois. Kind of like, if you went to New Orleans, they have their dialect type deal. Well, Nigerians have their own patois, if you will. So that's in the book. When you listen to the audiobook, you actually get to understand what it sounds like. So instead of guessing, well, what are they saying in there? Did she make a mistake? I don't think she spelled that right. You actually get that, in the audiobook. So,
Very nice, very nice. And then also she has other books. She has
Women of Purpose, Women of Purpose anthology that I did with 30 other women. You can show them on the back. Each one talking about how they're fulfilling their purposes, and what challenges they went through to fulfill those purposes. Just to encourage other people to go out and fulfill their purposes.
very
The
nice.
purpose, yeah. I didn't bring them today, but my 3 novels, Love's Destiny, my very first book. I don't like to say romance because if you say romance, people think Harlequin.
Kind of, yeah. Not that kind of.
It ain't kind of book, but it is a love story. It's a very good love story. Love's Legacy is a sequel to that, and that's more mystery, suspense, kind of what's going on type deal. And then When Dreams and Visions Collide is my comic relief. So, and all of those books, all of my books are on
And
my
then we have
website.
these
Yeah,
as
my
well.
children's book, Timmy's Time Tale, and Shades of Me.
Shades of Me.
Yeah, so
Very
I'm
nice.
actually working on 2 more children's books. Another historical fiction, because this is considered historical fiction, and that's an ode to African American history. So all the history that they didn't teach us is going to be in there.
Nice.
Things like not realizing that Central Park was actually Seneca Village. A booming community with African Americans and a mixed community that the government took from them
Wow.
to create Central Park. And we're just now hearing about Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Black Wall Street that
Mhm.
they burned down.
Oh
So,
yeah, I knew
Yeah,
about that. Yeah.
So different things like that. And the title of the book right now, the working title is Liberty's Justice, and the main character is Liberty. So she's going back to when her ancestors were brought over here from Africa up until Black Lives Matter. And just, yeah. So that's
Wow.
how I'm
That's
doing
pretty
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's my next project.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the
It
show.
was a
We
pleasure.
want to have you back. I mean, I just love this nuggets
Yeah.
of history. I mean, I think it's just amazing.
Thank you. I think it's important.
Very much so.
It's very, very important. Like you said, for me too, I wanted the history was
Mhm.
boring to me.
Mhm.
But that's because they told us their story. They didn't necessarily tell us our story.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I know you're gonna enjoy this. Please share, like, go to our YouTube to actually see this video again. Please share it, like it, and subscribe. Find this beautiful lady. We'll put her information at the bottom, but I believe it's already on the YouTube. You just go to it. We'll reshare it again on our Facebooks and social
Yeah.
medias. And buy the books. Buy the books. I mean,
Yeah,
get kids, buy
buy
these
them.
books.
Yeah.
Buy all these good juicy books. Go buy them. Go buy 'em. Read, educate. Man, I'm telling you, because we have to stick together, and we know at the end of the day, it's us, and we have to help us. It's the FUBU, for us, by us.
Exactly.
So it's a matter of helping and getting out there and uplifting one another. It's one world. We can all live in it peacefully and love one another, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Okay, learn your history.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, until next week, SKST Radio. Everybody wave goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.